during the last 40 years, along with many other terror organisations, had spread like a cancer across the globe. It wasn't as though there'd been no warnings. In 2001, as an MEP following 9/11, I was the rapporteur in the European Parliament responsible for the legislation on security at airports. I'd spent 25 years in the airline industry and witnessed the growing threats from hijacking by the PLO and Black September in the 1970s, to the horrific terrorist attack on flight Pan Am 103 at Lockerbie. It should have been a wake-up call, but it hasn't been. We've had 30 years of the IRA's atrocities, murdering civilians on our shores. But as those threats began to diminish, they've been replaced by the terrorist atrocities we've seen at first hand. 7/7, Glasgow Airport, Lee Rigby, Westminster, Manchester Arena, London Bridge, Reading, and much more. Carried out by Islamic extremists, as if counter-terrorism and the security service haven't anything better to do. Post-October the 7th, the pro-Palestinian hate protests started. Week in, week out, from the river to the sea, and calls for jihad. Nazi placards and blatant anti-Semitism in full view. Hizb ut-Tahrir, later proscribed, took part. Hamas sympathisers and children dressed as Hamas terrorists having their photographs taken with members of the Metropolitan Police. I complained. We complained. Nothing was done. Excuses were made. And so it continues. Some of us met with Gold Command from the Metropolitan Police more than 18 months ago. I asked about the threshold, which apparently, if reached, when these protests would have to stop. He obfuscated. So I asked him, if these protesters shouted, "Kill the blacks," he was a black officer, or "Kill all Muslims," would there have been a second march or any following? And I believe not. 2.5 years in, anti-Semitism has escalated to a degree I thought I'd never see in my lifetime. Attacks on synagogues, restaurants, shops, murders, stabbings, British families and children surrounded now by a ring of steel. They're threatened daily and fear for their lives. Warm words, my lords, will no longer wash. The Prime Minister recently sounded very surprised when he spoke. Where's he been? He blamed the far right, as usual. It appears that those of us who speak out on these issues and spell out the problem are all far right. The vast majority of people who marched at the weekend in the United Kingdom rally were certainly not far right. They were ordinary people who were tired of living with this Islamist threat hanging over us. There were Israeli flags, Iranian flags, and every flag from every part of the United Kingdom. Meanwhile, at the Nakba rally, they were still calling for the annihilation of all Jews and of Israel, and much more. So in conclusion, my lords, the public are sick and tired of this appeasing approach to these Islamists who actually hate our country. So unless the government and the Metropolitan Police and this Home Secretary and everyone else involved are prepared to stop talking and take action, this will not improve. As Churchill once said, an appeaser is one who feeds a crocodile, hoping it will eat him last.